Welcome to On the Other Hand, a special welcome to Hemsing Panwar, Ethertainment Garrett, and any other new viewers. I absolutely love the channel CinemaWins. He does everything great about videos, often highlighting the great parts of movies that haven't been well received. The channel is a very cool way to look for the good in life and is always upbeat and constructive, which I appreciate. With all the craziness in 2020, CinemaWins did deviate from the usual review videos for one entitled Silence, and I'd like to talk about it. Here are some highlights from the video.
For the majority of my life, silence has been my go-to position, even if I had a strong opinion. On Facebook, I'm just Lee. I can say what I want. On Twitter, I'm reminded to stay in my lane, but losing followers is not a huge deal. Here on YouTube, I understand you don't come to me for anything other than positivity about movies. And I don't want to lose you as a subscriber. I understand that I might. But if you have to go, I would just ask that you hear me out. Black people's lives shouldn't be political. It should just be a human issue. There's nothing political about listening when an entire community of people tells us something is wrong and cries out for our help. We have failed them. I have failed them for far too long. But honestly, I have no answers. I've talked academically about this topic in past videos, but the reason I'm not making a regular video this week and the reason I am making this video is to amplify other voices that do have some answers. If you'll only take one recommendation from me, watch Emmanuel Acho's video. You may have already seen it. If not, there's a link in the description for both the video and his Twitter. And he's planning to make it a series. It answers questions that I have absolutely asked at one time or another throughout my life. But the best advice I can give you is to educate yourself and those around you. If you're not sure where all the outrage is coming from, it's a long story, and I think a great place to start is Ta-Nehisi Coates' book, Between the World and Me. It's written as a letter to his son and explains parts of American history through a new lens. And it's actually on a list made by anti-racist researcher Victoria Alexander, link for her Twitter in the description, which has books for beginners, intermediates, and then specific topics. Also, if you're going to buy these books, consider Black-owned bookstores. And if you're lost for how else to help, I know it's not an easy time financially with so many people still without jobs, but if you have the means, donate to some of these causes. And then any bail funds for protesters, there are lots to choose from. No one should be stuck in jail for exercising their First Amendment right. Lots of people are being arrested for just being present at protests right now or being out a few minutes past curfew across the country. Take in as much literature from Black authors, social media from Black educators, also social media from non-educational Black people. They'll always offer a perspective on events and issues that you may not have considered. And as white people, we need to evaluate the ways we can be anti-racist. Everyone's non-silence looks different. No one is saying you need to grab a bullhorn. But now, and every day after today, silence is not an option. There are not enough Black people, or any marginalized group for that matter, to do this themselves. As the majority, we need to help.
So I'd like to start off by saying that of all the YouTube creators who put out content on this subject, I feel like CinemaWins was both the most sincere and did the best job of it. That being said, I would like to talk about a couple of things I feel like missed the mark. CinemaWins said, Black people's lives shouldn't be political, it should just be a human issue. I agree. I also think this skips past the semantic overload that is Black Lives Matter. I've done an entire video on the subject, but suffice it to say that the statement Black Lives Matter isn't necessarily political, but the Black Lives Matter movement is. I feel like Freedom Tunes addresses some of the politics of BLM humorously as follows.
How do you know you're really advocating for what Black people want?
Of course I know what people of color want.
Did you go into Black neighborhoods and take polls so you know whether or not you're representing their views?
Totally. I was like, what do you want white America to know? And they were like, the nuclear family is totally an oppressive social construct. And gender is fluid. Get used to it, cracker!
So they wanted to get rid of the nuclear family.
Of course, dude, it causes cancer.
What a coincidence that their politics aligned exactly with those of a white upper middle class liberal arts student.
I know, it's weird. It's like they're the perfect tool, group of people for the left to care about in hell.
Unfortunately, anything that looks to change laws, even if it claims not to be political, is destined to become political one way or another. CinemaWins also said he didn't have answers, but that he wanted to amplify people who do have answers. I can respect that. Of all the people who have said that sort of thing, again I feel like CinemaWins did it the best. The unfortunate part of politics, though, is everyone is certain they have the correct answers. I went and watched the reference video several times, and I disagree with many of the answers that were presented. I appreciate that CinemaWins was sharing answers he thinks are right. I just disagree that they are the only answers or the right ones. CinemaWins also referenced an anti-racist list, which I looked into, and it has grown and become far more official than it was originally. Now I can't say how much of this list was present at the time of his video, but now there are quite a few entries that seem to conflict with the desire for this conversation to be apolitical. Specifically, entries about intersectionalism, the New York Times 1619 Project, white fragility, and Pod Save America and Company. I also want to point out that the term anti-racism suffers from the same semantic overload as Black Lives Matter, and that causes disagreements. CinemaWins also talks about people who are stuck in jail for exercising their First Amendment right, just for being present at protests or out a couple minutes past curfew. Now as I see it, protesting often involves civil disobedience, and disobeying laws comes with consequences. I'm sure there were innocent people who got unfairly arrested when protesting, but I'd guess there were more who should have been arrested for all the destruction and violence that happened but weren't caught. And I find it interesting that CinemaWins put up phrases like silence is complicity, because if you are at a protest and other people at the same protest start breaking laws, being violent or rioting, and you believe silence is complicity, all protesters present would be complicit in those destructive behaviors. So I'd just like to end on how oversimplified those phrases were in his video. Silence is consent, and silence is easy specifically. Especially in the age of social media, I feel the idea that silence is consent can't get you very far. Everyone thinks their cause is most important, and silence is consent seems to say that you must speak out against every possible injustice, regardless of your level of knowledge on the subject. Otherwise, you are literally guilty by not condemning it. I know that reading of the phrase wasn't what CinemaWins was trying to say, but that's my problem with this video. Much of what was said sounded nice, but didn't really hold up upon closer inspection. Also, especially here on the internet, silence isn't easy. Ignorance abounds, smart people make mistakes, and it's easy to be reactive and combat everything you disagree with. It's difficult to try to find opportunities to have meaningful discussions, and it is easy to fill your time with less important things. I do think CinemaWins was trying to start meaningful discussions with his video, and I think he did a great job all things considered. I also think he sent some oversimplified and contradictory messages, and I hope this video will sincerely add to the discussion and make it more realistic and nuanced. As always, thanks, hope you enjoyed, and if you did, consider subscribing and hitting the bell so you'll get notified for new uploads.